Welcome to Paperweights, the podcast where two self-proclaimed gym rats and shooting enthusiasts delve into the world of literature with a sprinkle of humor. Although their biceps could crush a walnut, don't let that intimidate you. They also have a nerdy side. Mike and Brandon have a voracious appetite for reading, particularly in the fantasy genre, and they want to share their passion with you. So grab your protein shake and your favorite novel and join us for a humorous and insightful journey into the world of books with Paperweights.
Welcome back to another episode of the Paperweights. I'm your host, Brandon.
And I am Mike.
And today we are starting off our read of the Harry Potter series. We've both read it before. And some of you probably have read it before, and some of you may not. And if it's your first time, welcome. And we will try our best to not spoil any future books. But
my copy's a little bit more well-worn than yours.
yes.
Seeing as how the first chapter is not even attached to the book anymore.
I got a brand new set for Christmas. Funny thing is, though, I realized that Amazon Kindle Unlimited has all of them on there, and I actually discovered that I prefer reading it on there just because I can highlight and make notes on there without stopping, putting down the book, holding the book open while I make notes in my Discord thread. So we'll see if I use the actually read all the paper books or stick with my Kindle. So look, it's kind of chilly, so I'm gonna
use your Gryffindor socks.
Put my Gryffindor socks on, courtesy of my friend Alex. I was a groomsman in his wedding.
Nice.
It was a Harry Potter themed wedding. His wife really loves Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really fun at the reception. Every one of their tables had like wands on them and
that's cool.
Little spells, chocolate frogs, Birdie's every flavor beans. And
have you tried those besides from at that wedding?
Yes, I have.
There's a game that reminds me of that. It's like I think it's like the every flavor bean game, basically. Like you spin this little dial and they're all Jelly Belly jelly beans, but they're like the most horrific flavors you could ever hope to get. And like basically the game is if you spit out the jelly bean, then you're out.
Oh.
So whoever makes it to the end of the game, the stinking thumbs up. I still haven't figured out how to turn that off yet. So by the time you make it to the end of the game, whoever hasn't spit out their jelly bean wins.
No,
I win every time because I'm no punk. I'm not quitting.
Yeah, these jelly beans, none of them tasted bad. But yeah, the other cool thing is each of the tables at the reception had a name attached to it. So like the Leaky Cauldron, the Three Brooms, Green Guts.
Mm-hmm.
Each one had a name of a place inside of Harry Potter.
Oh, that's cool.
So, what you drinking tonight? I've got Vacation Juice from Second Line Brewing, and it's hazy India Pale Ale.
So this is another near beer. This is from Athletic Brewing Company. This is their Wits Peak. It's a Belgian style white ale. I actually really like this one from them. It tastes like a white ale. Like it tastes like a beer. So I like near beers that just taste like beer. So
okay.
Believe it or not, I'm actually a big fan of O'Doul's. Like the O'Doul's Amber, stellar. I really like it.
Man, I haven't had O'Doul's in so long. I remember
it just works.
Growing up, my dad's been sober for 40 years, something like that.
Okay.
I think he got sober before I was even born. So congratulations to my dad for being sober for that long.
Right.
And but growing up, I got to drink near beers with him, you know. And O'Doul's back then, you know, they had O'Doul's and they had St. Pauli NA and I
Hmm.
think Caliber. And I
Caliber
think
is actually
those,
really good.
yeah,
I like Caliber.
those were like the three near beers that they had back then.
Hmm.
And so like it was, as a kid, it was just like, yeah, this isn't great, but I'm doing something my dad's doing. That's cool.
Right.
And then he was like, when I was young, I don't know if he'll get in trouble for this, but my mom knew, but he's like, son, I don't want you to smoke cigarettes, but you know, my dad was in a cigar phase. He's like, but you come sit outside and, you know, chill with me with a cigar. And so a lot of times we'd go out and we'd be working on the boat
Hmm.
and we'd get done working on the boat and we'd just sit in the boat and you know, share a cigar.
Nice. That's
So,
cool.
yeah. But I mean, when I say young, I was like I was in high school, so
Yeah.
not terribly young, not
You weren't like 6 out there smoking a stogie and wrenching on the
yeah.
boat.
6-year-old Brandon going,
Hand me that 8 mil, Dad. Let's go.
man, Dad, is this a real Cuban right here?
So
They,
all right. So book one.
quickly before we get back in, before we jump
Hmm.
into the book, I realized like yesterday, I think that um, Universal in Florida is actually building, like in 2025, they'll have a third park open.
Yes.
And that third park has another Wizarding World section.
Doesn't surprise me because there's different there's like 3 different sections in the regular wizarding world. So why not add another part to it? So,
In in what? In the Harry Potter?
or maybe they're just going to expand on one of the other ones.
Are you talking about like at Universal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's one, I know there's like one section in each of the two existing parks. There's Diagon Alley and then there's
Hogsmeade.
Hogsmeade,
Hmm.
right? And you can take the if you have a uh,
The park
park
hopper.
pass, park hopper, whatever they call it over there, you can take you can take a Hogwarts Express
Yep.
in between the two parks. So
It is it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. You can
yeah,
take
I
it
can't.
you can take it going either way too. Of course, the problem is depending on when you go. Like we did it one day and then we went the next day. The line was so long, even the express lane had a 2-hour wait. And the guy the guy working the turnstile to go onto the train was like, express pass is a 2-hour wait. He said it's a 5-minute walk. You make the choice. I was like, I think we're gonna walk, bud. Appreciate it.
Yeah, the long wait reminds me of when we went to our first time in Disney. We were in Animal Kingdom and we did everything that we wanted to do, and we had a reservation for something, but it was like a couple hours, and so we're
Mhm.
like, well, we don't know what to do. Jules is tired of walking, and we were right there by the Navi River journey, and it was like a 3-hour wait. So we were
Oh
just like,
wow.
let's get in line because we don't have anything to do.
Right.
So that is the only time we waited, you know, over even 1
Hmm.
hour. And it was a long wait. And I got on it and it was like, okay, this is cool, but
Why is it three
why
hours?
wait 3 hours? Like,
Right.
unless you absolutely have nothing to do,
Hmm.
like we did, like, don't wait 3 hours. So, but yeah, this
Rocking the
got this
hoodie.
hoodie in. Oh yeah, I gotta mention. So I was in Barnes and Noble the other day. We will get to talking about the book. I promise you.
Eventually, we're going to talk about the
Um,
book.
yeah, I was in Barnes and Noble the other day, and so the Choose Your Own Adventure brand has some board games,
Okay.
and so I picked one. They had one on the shelf, and I was looking at it, and I noticed that the red bubble, the
Uh-huh.
red pill up here with Choose Your Own Adventure, had a little R and a circle on it, and I was like, oh, that's a registered trademark. And then I turned it over, and it was like, yeah, these things are registered trademarks of whatever.
Mhm.
I was like, so we might have to change this before we actually start selling any
Right.
merch.
Take that off.
We don't want to get sued or have a cease and desist before we even make it big,
Right.
Not that we're going to make it big, but you never know.
10 years down the road.
Yeah, 10 years down the road, like these old geezers are still at this.
They keep
We're
writing
still reading
books.
children's books.
Children's
So,
books are more fun sometimes. They're not as serious and depressing.
yeah. So, all right. Book one of Harry Potter, the Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone. You
De-
choose which name you want.
depending on which edition you picked up.
Yeah. Or,
If it,
or your canon of it.
this is true, depending on your canon of it.
Overall,
Mine is still the Sorcerer's Stone. It's not the early edition that was released in England for the Philosopher's Stone.
how do you feel about rereading it?
Honestly, the rereading it was kind of fun. There was a lot of things that I forgot happened in a certain order because it's been so long since I've read it. And I've seen the movies several times since the last time I read through it. I was like, oh, that's right, that happened, or oh, that's right, that's where those two people first met. Like, for example, in the movie, uh, Draco, like Harry Potter doesn't really meet Draco until like at Hogwarts, but in the book, he meets him in Diagon Alley.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like just little things like that that I'm like, oh, okay, that's where that actually happened.
Yeah. So and we'll have some minor comparisons between the book and the movie on the podcast here. But why did my mind go blank?
I have no idea. You're
Um,
probably going to say we're going to do our best to not talk about future books and like foreshadowing, and we're going to try to keep it to the book at hand. That's probably what you were going to say.
I
If
wasn't going to say that. I
oh,
remembered what I was going to say, but we should have
I,
said that too.
I
So
tried to help.
no, you did help. Got to have the expectations with the readers, or listeners rather. Hopefully they're reading along as well. But I forgot just how much of like a investigation mystery novel this one is.
Yeah,
And because I had only read the entire series once. I listened to um sorry, I got to make sure my wife didn't call me.
she
Oh,
didn't call me, so
I have no clue what that number is. So, oh well. It literally didn't ring, but it just popped up and said I had a missed call, which
mm,
is just weird. But um, anyway, I'd only read through the entire series once. I've
mhm.
listened to a few of the first books on the audiobook
Mhm.
before, but I've watched the movie so many times
Yeah,
that at this point, almost every time I watch it, it's just on,
yeah,
and I'm doing other things while it's on.
pretty much how I got through grad school.
Yeah. So the movie, it doesn't have the same tone um story wise
Hmm.
as the book does. I think they did an excellent job of like bringing Hogwarts to life. And so
Yeah.
like as I was reading it this time, I was like, as I was picturing it, I was like,
Mm.
okay, the movie did exactly how I pictured it. Like the Great Hall,
Yeah.
exactly how I pictured it. Um, a lot of the voices, I actually changed reading it. My
Hmm.
mind changed the voices from whatever the actors were doing, and I was like, oh, this is fun. So I was having fun reading it, but at the same time, I think book one, um, I didn't read through it as fast as I normally would read through books, and I think it's
Okay.
just because it book one is the writing is just very lower level for
Yeah.
children, right?
Yeah.
So it was like too easy that it was boring.
Hmm.
Like just the reading of it. The
Yeah.
story is good, but just the reading of it is like, oh, okay. Um, but the story is still good. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I'm not bashing the shit out of the book, but um, and we should probably keep our language a little bit instead if there's in case there's kids
I
that
mean,
are going to
you
listen.
cuss more than I do on here, so
I do, but yeah, I was, but at the same time, I think some of the descriptions is some of the events that happen. I'm
Mhm.
surprised are in a children's book. Um, just like the fact that Voldemort killed Harry's parents and then went to kill a child, and
Yeah.
it's a like, man, those are dark things
I
for
mean, but what better
children.
way to set up like the big bad of the book than be like, oh, he's a baby killer?
Right.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that I mean, that can be scary for kids, right? But
mhm,
also, it's what, 27 years old. The book's what, 27 years old? Is it
let's see.
published in 97 or something? 97,
No,
90.
first American edition was 1998.
Okay, close. So 26 years old.
Yeah.
Even back
Oh,
then,
Jesus Christ. This book is almost 30 years old. Oh my gosh.
even back then, we didn't, you know, shield kids as much as we do now.
Right.
And then the further back you go, like in the 1950s and before, it's like there's less shielding of kids. And, it's like 1920s, you got kids, 10, 12 years old, who are
They were
like
working in the coal mines in the 20s.
working in coal mines and factories, and, you know, making money so that the family can live. And
Mhm.
it's like, and now it's like, sometimes it's like 26, 27 year olds, or haven't gotten a job yet. And then they're like, oh, now I'm not on my parents' insurance anymore. I guess I
Mhm.
better get a job. I'm not saying, by no means am saying that's like the prevalent case, but there are definitely those that are that. So, um, but
Well,
anyway,
our characters are only 11, so they don't have to worry about
yeah, he does
that.
not. He does not. Um, all right, so chapter one, the boy who lived.
Mhm.
Um, of course, we get introduced to the wizarding world here. Um, and I made a few notes here. It's like the Dursleys kind of seem like they should be the like at the beginning of the book. The Dursleys seem like they should be the likable ones, and that the Potters are something horrible. And I got that from like following Mr. Dursley around in his work schedule, and the way his thoughts of the Potters. You're like, okay, so this is the first experience we're having.
Mhm.
But it quickly becomes, oh, the Dursleys are just very miserable
Well, I
people
mean,
that have,
everything he was saying, like at the beginning, like he was talking about how excited he was because he got to yell at people. I'm like, I don't like this guy, like at all. He's like, oh
you
yeah, I
know,
got to yell at somebody before lunch, made some phone calls, yelled at somebody else. I'm like,
but
okay,
he did he doesn't go into detail about what makes the Potters terrible people.
just they're different.
Yeah, they're
They're
different. You're
just
like, okay,
different.
well, what about them?
Hmm.
What is it about them? And so, uh you're wondering, like, I was wondering, is like, okay, I could see myself. I already know the story,
Right.
but I could see myself like, oh, I wonder what makes them such bad people.
Hmm.
Why does Mr. and Mrs. Dursley just hate the Potters?
Hmm.
Um, Another thing I made a note of was, it just, things seem to be going downhill, and an apocalypse is happening, and it kind of reminded me of Shaun of the Dead. So,
Yeah. When he's like going to the store and he's just kind of walking by the dude eating the other guy, he's like, what's going on over there? That's kind of weird.
yeah, it's like everybody's like celebrating, and it's
Hmm.
like, oh, why are y'all celebrating? It's like, oh, you don't need to know.
But I think like what was that? What or what do you say? Like what that one wizard say? Like even a Muggle like you should be celebrating. He's like Muggle. What are you talking about?
What's a wiggle?
Yeah,
Weird
that's
word.
just cussing at me. What are you doing?
Would you call me? uh, I I didn't realize how funny, like, in the movies. Um, you I don't think Dumbledore was you didn't get as much introspection from Dumbledore and his odd thoughts
Mm-hmm.
in the movies as in the book. And uh, one quote that stuck out at me that was really hilarious. And there's several others throughout the book because he talks about food a lot.
Yes, he does.
But in this in this quote, he said, "I haven't blushed so much since Madame Pomfrey told me she liked my new earmuffs."
Yeah.
It's like,
It's it really like a bunch of little one-liners like that that are funny.
oh, so yeah, we find out um, that Voldemort was defeated, but now Harry Potter is parentless, orphaned, and they left him on the doorstep without ringing the doorbell, just to hope that the Dursleys open the door and look outside on the porch in the morning.
Well, he left a letter.
He did leave a letter, but he
He
didn't like
left a letter.
knock on the door like, "Hey, I'm leaving this child here."
It's like, yeah. Maybe McGonagall stayed in cat form and made sure that they, you know, stayed there, make sure nobody harmed the kid. Or they were probably like, the kid survived Voldemort. He's probably fine.
Yeah. Speaking of that, uh, that's all the notes I had for chapter one.
Mhm.
I don't think we have to really rehash most of the events.
No,
Just
I definitely like that. I definitely like the intro of the book more than the intro of the movie because the intro of the movie, we really don't get a sense of who the Dursleys are
Mhm.
until we just kind of see them in the movie. But here we're kind of getting a little setup. We're getting an image of Dudley as a baby, seeing that he's pretty much been the way he is in the movies and later in the book his entire life. Because it
Mhm.
talks about in the first part of the book about how he's throwing tantrums and kicking and biting and doing just basically being a terror. And they're just like, "Oh, he's such a little tyke." So
Yeah, later on, I made a note of it somewhere, but like when they put Harry in his second bedroom,
yeah,
I was like, man,
just for
this
his just
kid.
second bedroom for his toys and stuff. It's like, come on, really?
Chapter two, the vanishing glass. Uh, there's this is a little one-liner talking about Harry describing him, and it described him as being hairy all over.
Hmm.
It's like when Harry Potter is hairy all over.
Yeah, it's like the
Uh,
poor kid's got part werewolf or something.
yeah, yeah. I noticed here um, all the funny business that happened as
Hmm.
Harry Potter was growing up. They listed several examples. I didn't write any of
Being on
them
top of a flagpole and like being able to hair growing back, like basically getting his head shaved and it coming all hair growing back the next day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I was thinking, it's like, is all this funny business due to just Harry's innate magic, or are there other wizards that were watching him and correcting things for
Mm.
him? What do you think?
I could see how you would say that, like reading it at that point. But then if you remember, we get to the part where in a little bit whenever we get to Hagrid and him meeting Hagrid, he's like, "Do you ever make anything happen when you were scared or nervous? Things you couldn't explain?" So it's like it's that innate magical, and then we start listening to like some of the other stories of the young wizards that are first years at Hogwarts, explaining how they found out that they were witches or wizards, and the things their family members were doing to them to try to bring out their magic.
It's like,
To include,
why, yes, Hagrid. That time I saw the girl, this girl, and a flagpole erected in the schoolyard. It's pretty magical.
oh, Brandon,
Or pitching tents when you go camping.
Brandon, Brandon. So the vanishing
Uh,
glass. So I'd forgotten that whenever they went to the zoo, that Dudley took a friend, and that it wasn't just him and Harry. I'd completely
yeah,
forgotten.
I forgot that too. And also, Harry in the book doesn't actually ask the snake, "Can you hear me?"
Yeah.
like he does in the book. That line is stuck in my head from the movie. It's like, "Can you hear me?"
And then Dudley doesn't fall into the snake pit.
He does not fall in, and it does
The
not.
glass just goes away, and the snake's like, "Sweet, I'm out."
Yeah, but it is funny in the movie when he falls in and the
Yeah,
glass reappears and
it's
he's
there.
stuck in there.
Well, and
And he gets,
that really kind of like concretes it for the Dudleys or for the Dursleys that Harry had something to do with it,
oh yeah, oh
because they're
yeah.
like they just immediately turn to look at him like, "Oh, my little Dudley's trapped in the snake thing." It's like, I didn't do it. Sure, sure you didn't.
um, there was on the last page of this chapter, on page 30, they described a bunch of people, strangers in the street that seemed to know Harry.
Yeah,
So
and how somebody like bowed to him and all this other stuff. Mhm.
I was wondering, and I didn't write any of these things down so we can discuss it. Do we recognize any of these people? So I'm gonna go through a couple of the descriptions and we can discuss if we who we think it is, if anybody. Um, there was a tiny man with a tiny man in a violet top hat that bowed to him while out shopping. A tiny, I mean, I can only think of somebody like Professor Flitwick or something, but
I
not specifically him.
Yeah, I don't think any of the Hogwarts professors are out gallivanting around London.
They could be.
They could be. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just I know I didn't recognize going through the descriptions and then thinking about like the professors and the people that he runs into. I didn't reckon I couldn't pick out anybody.
I need a candy cane stripe hoodie here, and then I think I could look like Waldo
You could.
with these glasses on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you then we could be wondering where's Brandon instead of where's Waldo.
No, I'd be right here. You know where I was.
But I wouldn't be able to see you because anyway.
I need more stuff in here.
True.
Yeah. All right. So next person. A wild looking old woman dressed all in green had waved merrily at him once. So this actually reminds me of a Professor McGonagall because she often wears green.
Yeah, but it says wild woman, and she's not wild. She's very stern, put together, prim and proper. That's not McGonagall. Maybe
Or
green, maybe the color green, but
Professor Sprout.
maybe if she would be
Was
the closest one.
it? She looked pretty crazy, huh?
Hmm.
Um,
But we really don't run into Professor Sprout in the first book.
we don't.
Mm-mm.
Hi, Jules. We're recording a podcast. We're talking about Harry Potter. There's Jules.
Hi, Jules.
Uh, let's see. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken his hand in the street the other day and walked away without a word. Don't recognize the purple coat.
Nope.
But so this is why I think it's people from Hogwarts though, is because so the weirdest thing about all these people was the way they seemed to vanish the second Harry tried to get a closer look.
So I agree and will disagree because as we go through and we start learning that Harry is basically the most famous person in the wizarding world. I think that as he grew up, people were just so excited to see him that they were like searching him out as he was out and about. I don't think that they were able to interact with him while he's at home.
And that's kind of strange though. You know, you'd think that if he's so famous, people would try to really contact him.
I think Dumbledore, that was the whole point for Dumbledore leaving him with the Dursleys, though, is that he was going to be so famous in the wizarding world that really and truly, I think most of those people, it was just chance encounters. I don't think that they were actually able to find him. I don't think Dumbledore would have left him with the Dursleys if there was the chance for the other witches and wizards just to interact with him willy nilly. Personally,
But I mean, if they're told that he was the only one that survived it, then people are bound to be out there searching for him.
I'm sure they are, but this is Dumbledore we're talking about. This isn't, you know, this isn't like some other little low level wizard. This is Dumbledore that's like, no, we're leaving him here so he will be completely disconnected from the wizarding world.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Dumbledore is very magical, so nobody truly understands Dumbledore.
Dumbledore doesn't understand Dumbledore half the time, I think.
Very true. So chapter 3, letters from no one.
This is where it starts to get fun for me. I love this whole interaction.
Oh, I do too. And here's that note about Dudley's temper tantrum. So he threw his tortoise through the greenhouse window in a fit because Harry got his second bedroom.
He threw a turtle. He just straight up threw a turtle. What did the turtle do?
Why does Dudley have a tortoise to begin with?
I mean, look, we've already figured out that he gets everything he wants, right? So, like, I'm sure at some point, from birth to that point, he said he wanted a turtle because, I mean, turtles can live, or tortoises and turtles, they can live a super long time. And if it was in the greenhouse, it probably had all the food needed. So,
yeah.
And in the movie, the Dursleys didn't have a greenhouse in the movie.
No, they didn't. Dudley also in the book did not stomp on the stairs and then run down and shove Harry back into the cupboard and lock the door.
This is also
that was mean.
That was mean. But Dudley's kind of a jerk anyway, so.
Yeah, he is. So think about Mr. Dursley here. He goes through all this trouble trying to stop these letters, and he does not seem like he would have the energy or the skills to move as much as he did to do all this. And definitely not to row a boat in the middle of a storm out onto an island.
Did they row it or did it have a motor? I don't remember. I think they rowed it.
Yeah.
You know what? But anger and frustration will motivate a man to do a lot of things.
It can.
Yeah.
But also described as, how he's described, it's like, no.
Yeah. He's described pretty much the way he looks in the movie. Like there's no way he's rowing a boat.
It's funny, speaking of descriptions, as I was reading it, when you say somebody has no neck, it's like this, and it was funny. I read the description of Vernon, and his description of his neck and the description of Petunia's neck are like sentences back to back.
Yeah.
And when I read it, it's like, and Vernon has no neck.
Yeah.
And then Petunia is thin with more neck than anyone should have. And so like my brain was fucking with me right there because it was like no neck, lots of neck.
Right.
And it's like no neck, lots of neck.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, but it was kind of funny that because she describes her Petunia is like using her long neck to like look around, look through the windows and spy on her neighbors, like little little nosy nanny, Nelly, whatever you want to call it.
And at the end of this chapter, I really like I get kind of like a horror suspense and aspect of Hagrid banging on the door. It's like the reader and the characters have no clue who's there.
Right.
And it's just like, oh God, who's coming in?
Mhm.
Is that Voldemort coming back for Harry or
Right.
somebody? Um, but it's Hagrid, and we meet him in chapter 4, the Keeper of the Keys.
Mhm.
Um, and he and again, this line I think is different in the book than in the movie. I meant to go watch the movie to figure out the line, but in the book it's Harry, you're a wizard. And I think in the movie it's you're a
You're a
wizard,
wizard,
Harry.
Harry. Yeah.
Um,
And a thumping good one, I'd wager.
uh,
But also he doesn't let Dursley shoot him with the shotgun. He takes the shotgun in the book, he takes the shotgun away and twists it up. In the movie, Dursley points it at him and then he bends it and Dursley still shoots it and it goes through the ceiling.
that's not how guns work.
It does in a movie.
But also, you can't put a pigtail on a kid.
You can in a movie and in a book.
But also, why did they wait 2 months? It was like 2 or 3 months they waited before they went to the hospital to remove the pigtail from Dudley.
We'll get to because I have something else to mention when we get to that point. So we'll get there. We'll talk about that later.
um, I guess that's in a few chapters.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, so in chapter 4, we do meet Hagrid. I didn't make many notes about him. I did make a note that at this point we probably and definitely know enough about the Dursleys to have a strong case for abuse and neglect,
Oh, 100%.
and get him
Absolutely.
out of that house and living with
Mhm.
somebody else. It only gets worse.
Yeah. No, so that was great because I loved how the thing that was crazy was like imagine how bad Harry's life was that here's this literal giant standing there saying and then in the movie they don't spend the night. In the book they spend the night there.
Hmm.
And Hagrid makes tea, has sausages. I mean, who's carrying sausages around in their jacket? This guy is.
Hagrid.
Hagrid is. But so then, the next day the owl comes and Hagrid's just like, "Oh yeah, well go ahead and pay the owl." And he's like, "What?" Harry's like, "What do you mean pay the owl? Like I don't understand what you're talking about." So Hagrid's operating like Harry has any clue what's going on,
Hmm.
even though he just had to explain the whole thing about his parents were wizards. They didn't die in a car crash. There's a whole wizarding world. Like he's already had to explain all this to him, and Harry's just like mind blown. But how bad was Harry's life? Where here's this giant who just basically pulled back the wizard's curtain, if you will, and he's like, "Hey, you can come with me, or you can stay here." And he's like, "I'll go with you, big fella." Like what? And the Dursleys are like, "Okay, great, go." It's like what?
I mean, it's apparent that the Dursleys never took Harry to Universal Studios.
Never, not once.
If they would, Harry would have known all about the Wizarding World.
Yeah, because he just seen it.
Yeah, he would have seen it. He would have rode on the Gringotts ride.
He would have already ridden on the Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, I mean, he would have known how to get through platform 9 3/4.
Make sure you have the express lane. That's how you get on it. The express
Yeah,
pass.
yeah.
But that was just crazy to me. It was like his caregiver's like, fine, go with this strange man.
Well,
We don't
I mean, to
care.
be fair, anything that Vernon Dursley did nothing to Hagrid. Hagrid was
No,
not staggered at all.
no.
So what is Mr. Dursley gonna do? What's Uncle Vernon gonna do?
But still, like they put up zero resistance except to say he's not going to that school to have some old crackpot teach him magic tricks. That was the only resistance he put up.
Yeah.
Like, and then Hagrid gave Dudley a tail because of it. I did think it
Yeah.
was funny that he said he tried to turn him into a pig, but he was obviously too much like a pig already for the spell to work, so it just gave him a tail. That was funny.
Yeah, and those types of things they're great in books because you don't get that.
Right.
Uh, you don't get a lot of the inner monologue and backstory from the narrator in most movies
Mhm.
or shows that you do in books, unless they do something like the movie Stranger Than Fiction, which the idea of that movie is hilarious. I don't know if you've ever seen it
Mhm.
with Will Ferrell, and he's going around his life, and then all of a sudden he hears this voice narrating his life, and then he's
Hmm.
like, "Who said that?" And so like, he's a character in the story, and he's now hearing the narrator narrate his life.
Uh,
Um,
unpopular opinion. I'm not a big Will Ferrell fan.
yeah, you've mentioned that before.
It's not.
Yeah, so yeah, but you are a big fan of Diagon Alley. I'll tell you that, and that's chapter 5.
That is chapter
Uh,
5.
dude, I absolutely think it's hilarious um, that J.K. Rowling made goblins businessmen and
Yeah,
run a bank. Like, yes, goblins typically gather treasure, but
but they're usually
it's
thieves.
e- yeah, and they're usually fighting each other. But to
Yeah,
make them the actual businessmen that run the banks and make them the bankers in
yeah.
the wizarding world, at least in London,
I
they're
mean, it sounds like they are like the bankers for all of the wizarding world.
yeah. I mean that's just fucking sorry.
You
That's
did it
just
again
hilarious. I did it again. I think that's 3 for me and 0 for you.
because I'm amazing. It didn't work.
Yeah, you're just a better person than I am.
There it is.
There it is. You deserve that.
I
It
do.
doesn't do it for me though. Like
No,
nothing.
it's because I pay for Zoom and you don't.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess that maybe I should pay for it 1 month and just so I can get the fireworks.
The random little thumbs ups that you get.
That didn't work.
It didn't work that time. No, well,
Thumbs down.
it doesn't. See, it doesn't work for you either.
It doesn't
So,
work for
so the
me.
goblins are running the bank, and in the movie they specifically went to the head goblin. Like I remember that, like they walked all the way up to the head to like the head banker. In the book, they were just like they went to like the next teller. They were just like, just any old goblin will do.
Yeah. I mean, that's how most of banks work anyway, right?
Yeah, it seemed like whenever he handed over the letter from Dumbledore, like maybe that was a little bit more important than for just some run of the mill teller, but seemed like they were all pretty almost like they all had the same security clearance, if you will. Like they all
Yeah.
because like then that teller handed them off to some other guy who already knew exactly where they needed to go, and it's just like whatever.
No. I do love in this chapter. I love a lot of things about this book, apparently. Um, the narrative device that Rowling uses to inform Harry about the wizarding world.
Hmm.
So he's just going through Diagon Alley and running into people
Yeah,
and having conversations. And most of these people assume that he knows a lot of
everything.
stuff.
Hmm.
And he is learning about the wizarding world through all of these conversations.
Hmm.
So he's not learning it at Hogwarts. He's learning a lot before he gets to Hogwarts just by running into people that assume that he knows something, so they
Hmm.
bring it up and they're talking to him about it. He's like, "Yeah, I have no clue what you're talking about."
So we completely skipped over the leaky cauldron.
Okay,
And the
go
reason
back.
why I bring up the leaky cauldron is because whenever they walk in and the people in there realize that it's Harry Potter, they
Hmm.
all freak out.
Especially
And what,
Professor Quirrell.
especially Professor Quirrell, but one of the patrons there is like, oh, Mr. Potter, we've met before. He's like, oh, you're the one that shook my hand and bowed to me. And he's like, oh my God, you remembered me. He remembers me. So,
Witness
so,
me.
so that's why I was saying earlier about the chance encounters. Because instead of him being like, yeah, I've tried to see you before, but I just happened to like it was just like, oh my gosh, he remembers me. So That's why
Wait,
I wanted to bring. It's another reason why I wanted to bring that back up. And we do
what
meet
makes
Professor
me
Quirrell, who's the first professor. Well, besides for McGonagall and Dumbledore, he's the first of the professors that we meet.
yeah. Um, so wand shopping at Ollivander's. This I have to believe that Rowling was thinking about shoe shopping when
But
she
only maybe
was,
with like a really good person working at the shoe store.
yeah, like an unrealistic shoe shopping experience.
Mhm.
Maybe from Rodeo Drive.
They just kept bringing
Maybe,
them out. Here, try this one, try this one, try this one.
yeah, yeah. Um, if you go to Rodeo Drive, you might have a good shoe shopping experience, but I go shopping for shoes at the outlet mall, and they're all like, "Yeah, you need to do this. I can't let you do this, or they're gonna fire me." I'm like, "What? You
I
can't
just buy
ring
mine
these?
online.
You can't ring these two pairs of shoes up because they're gonna fire you?" Like, what? But I was go to the place where I forget what it's called, but I think it's Shoe Station or something.
Hmm.
Um, you buy one pair, you get the second pair half off.
Yeah, that's where I buy my kids' shoes.
So then I ended up going home with 3 shoes instead of 4.
Then you gotta go back and be like, "Where's the fourth shoe?"
Yeah. Why'd you only give me 1 shoe? The second pair is half off.
Yeah, half off. Duh.
I'm never
Everybody else,
shopping here again.
everybody else but you understood that. It's half off.
Oh, do you know Kinder Joys?
Who?
Kinder Joys? These
Oh, you
little,
talking about the Kinder eggs?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They're called Kinder Joys in America because you can't put candy inside of chocolate here. But
yeah.
like
It's
Kinder eggs have the candy inside of the chocolate egg, but these are a plastic egg shaped thing where the
hmm
candy is on half of it and the toy is on the other half.
hmm
My daughter loves them, and I bought a couple the other day because I saw that they were Harry Potter. Harry Potter,
mm.
and I got this
Got your
little,
got your little Ron Weasley.
yeah, I got a little Ronald Weasley. My daughter ended up getting a Professor Moody.
Okay,
Um,
little Mad
so
Eye.
yeah. All right, let's continue journeying on.
So we also have already met Malfoy because
Yes,
whenever Harry goes to get his robes, we meet
and
Malfoy.
Malfoy is at first is attempting to befriend Potter and like, hey, you're gonna do great. Like
Yeah, but he's kind of being a little snot about it though.
he is, but he's hoping that Potter is gonna like be a bad boy
Hmm.
instead of a goody two shoes.
Yep. Basically, that whole exchange that happens at the front steps of the castle or the steps of the castle between Malfoy and Harry Potter about the whole there's some wizards better than others. Basically, that exchange happens at the robe shop as opposed to at the castle.
Okay. I was like, they didn't have a conversation in front of the castle.
In
Because
the
you were talking
movie, they
about the
do.
movie. Yeah, yeah.
So again, like I was talking about earlier, there's things that happen in a different order between the two, and so the reading through it again now, my brain's like, hey, that didn't happen here in the movie. It happened somewhere else. So it's that's been the most fun thing for me is like seeing how they move stuff around to where some of these interactions still occur. They just change the order up slightly without affecting the story too much. Because in the movie, Harry Potter didn't even run into Malfoy at Diagon Alley at all. He doesn't see him until the train.
That's right. That is right.
So it's just those little nuances just for whatever reason stood out to me. But now now at Diagon Alley we got Hedwig. There it is. We got Hedwig. We've got a wand. He's got money. And
He's
now
got his
the other
books.
he's got his book. He's got his books. He's got his robes. He's got all the things. And the other thing that I had forgotten that's to me a giant difference between the book and the movie In the book, he goes back to the Dursleys. In the
Oh,
movie,
yeah,
they go
that's right.
straight from Diagon Alley to the train station. But in the book, he goes back. And to me, that was a huge difference. I was like, oh snap! Now he's got to go back for a month.
Yeah, and that's where Mount Petunia was like, well, I guess I better take Dudley to the hospital and have his tail removed.
Yep,
I was like, wait, why didn't you do that the first thing you did when you got home?
I know. Yeah, and that was it was kind of weird because they were so quick to abandon him at the train station. You're like what? Like the only reason we're taking you is because we're going to the hospital for Dudley. What train? What platform? 9 3/4. Like, good luck with that. Doesn't exist. And just kicks him out and goes. He's
Yeah, it's like, go, get out of
like
here.
deuces. We're done with you, dude.
So
So
we do move on to chapter 6, the journey from platform 9 3/4. Um, so yeah, this is where he first runs into Ron
yep,
and the Weasleys.
runs into the Weasleys
And
almost quite literally.
yeah, and he makes it through the gateway the first time with
With a
help
little assistance.
from Mrs. Weasley.
Mhm.
She says, just keep running and don't expect there to be anything in the way and you'll
Just
go
keep
through.
running. Just keep running.
But what was funny is he was expecting to be stopped.
Yeah.
He did the exact opposite of what she told him to do, but he still made it through.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, what? And here I had all my movies jumbled up. So I was reading this and I was expecting him to still run into the wall.
Mm.
And yeah, it surprised me when he went through because I was like, surely he's not going to make it through. And then on the train, there's basically there's no mention of adult supervision on the train.
There's one person. The lady
The
pushing the
trolley?
trolley.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The
Well,
lady pushing the trolley.
but
But
still, there's no outside of her. Hey, would you like to buy something? Would you like to participate in capitalism? Like, there's no. Hey, kids, don't be fighting. Things like that. Um, it
yeah,
actually reminds. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that it almost felt like they expected because it said the prefects had their own car because now we've now started to meet the Weasley family and we know Percy is a prefect and he's making a big deal about it and he's like, yeah, we have our own car. So like it's almost like they would be set up for the prefects to kind of like police the other kids. But they're like, no, we're gonna go sit up in our own car and let all mayhem break loose back here.
Kind of like an RA in a dormitory.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. It reminds me of my train ride when I was in high school and I went to Russia. We took a train from Moscow down to a city called Kostroma, which is in the Gold Circle. Um,
Was Bert Cashmere or whatever his last name's on there, stealing all the stuff
Kreischer.
and selling it to the Russian
No,
mob?
he wasn't there, but it also reminded me of his story on a train. But no, we were on a train and we were doing. We're all in a cabin. Not all of us, but a few of us were in a cabin together, just cutting up our uh, hosts or not hosts, our chaperones.
Mm-hmm.
They were in their uh, cart or rooms, and they were sleeping, and we were doing stuff, and then we left the room to find a bathroom or water. I think I needed water because we were drinking some vodka because some of the Russian exchange students that we were staying with, they
Mm-hmm.
met us at the airport, I think, and they were riding back on the train with us, and so they had brought vodka and we were drinking it, and I was like, man, I need water. And so like I walk out and I'm walking the train and I walk to the end of one of the car we're in, and there's this like break room or something
Mm-hmm.
for um stewards on the train or whatever they're called. And they're drinking and playing cards or something. And I was like, asked, in Russian, the word for water is voda,
Mm-hmm.
and the word for vodka is vodka.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was asked them in Russian, "Do you have any water?" And they looked at me and they're like, "You want vodka?" I was like, "No, I
I
want water."
mean, it's like, no, I'm full of that. I need some actual water. I've had too much vodka at this point.
It's just hilarious.
Too much vodka. I need some voda.
Yeah, voda. These. Um, oh yeah, every kid on this train is concerned with and guessing what house they'll be sorted
Mhm.
into. Um, I guess that might be akin to like Greeks and Pledge Day.
Yeah, that's
Although,
kind of that's kind of the vibe I got from it the first time that I read through it. I was like, this is like fraternity and sorority houses. What are we doing here?
yeah, I don't know anything about frat or sorority houses, but yeah, I don't think you just go and they're like, "All right, you're in this one." You
Mm,
got to be like, "Hey, I
there's a
want
whole
to join yours."
there's a whole their whole pledge process.
Yeah.
I'd say the other thing that was gigantically different between the book and the movie, and I think it was unnecessary in the movie, was when the little trolley comes by with the candy and stuff. Like in the book, Harry just buys a few things. Like he buys like one or two of each of the things, but in the movie, he buys it all. Like he wipes the card out. So
I see. I got the sense in the book um, that he did buy a lot of things as
yeah,
well.
it said he bought. He said he bought a couple of each item. But in the movie, he said we'll take the lot. So in the movie, he buys the entire cart. That way, so basically at
So
that point,
inconsiderate.
nobody else on the train gets anything because all the candy's gone.
So inconsiderate.
Thought it was a little overkill in the movie compared to because it gets the point across in the book that like he's just buying a bunch of stuff because it's his first time having money, so he's doing what every
Right.
kid's doing.
And I think in the movie they're like, well, what would you do as a kid
Mhm.
if all of a sudden you had a lot of money,
Yeah,
somebody's selling candy, and you don't have anybody to tell you no, you
yeah,
can't spend that much. I mean, I know what I would do. I know what my daughter would do.
yeah.
Be like, yeah, give it all. Can I afford it? Yeah. All
I
right, give it
guess
all.
is this enough? And it's like more money than Ron had ever seen in his life.
Anything else in chapter 6?
Chapter 6, we meet Hermione, don't we? Is that our first time we meet Hermione?
That is the
Comes through looking for Neville's frog. Tells them put their robes on because they're getting ready to be at Hogwarts.
I think so. It was either there or it was might not have been at Diagon Alley. I think it might have I think it was on the train.
Yeah, we're on the train, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying I think it is the train,
yeah.
and I was considering it was either that or in Diagon Alley.
Yeah, we meet her
But
on the train for the first time. And
so
I
we
just
meet Malfoy in Diagon Alley. We
yep,
meet
Hermione on the train.
Ron. We meet the
Mhm.
Weasleys platform at King's Crossing,
Yep,
and then we meet Hermione and
on the
Neville
train.
on the train.
I don't think
Yeah,
we've really met Neville yet. We've heard his name a couple times, but we haven't
yeah,
like actually met him yet because everybody keeps looking for his toad.
yeah. Damn toad.
Stupid frogs. And
So
I also think it's kind of funny that Neville has a toad, and even Hagrid, whenever Hagrid was buying Hedwig for him for Harry, which I just Harry, Hagrid, Hedwig, all H's anyway. Uh, Even Hagrid was like, you don't want a toad; those went out of style years ago. And now Neville's got a frog. It's just funny.
all right, so chapter 7, we get to the Sorting Hat. They arrive
Mhm.
at school, and um Hagrid brings the first years to Professor McGonagall.
Yep, takes them off the train onto the boats, and they go on the boats to Hogwarts. Holy crap! There's that.
Yeah, Hogwarts.
I don't know why that word was hard, but takes them to Hogwarts and basically knocks on the door and leaves them on the steps with McGonagall.
Yep. And so chapter 7. All right. Page 125. Let's wow, I opened up right to it.
Lucky guy.
I am a magician.
You're a wizard.
I am a wizard. It's funny, they use sorcerer and wizard interchangeably, and they're not interchangeable in like Dungeons and Dragons. But anyway, so Neville talking about his family, or how his family thought he was a muggle.
Yeah.
It says, Great Uncle Algie kept trying to catch me off my guard and force some magic out of me. He pushed me off the end of Blackpool Pier once. I nearly drowned, but nothing happened until I was 8. Great Uncle Algie came round for dinner, and he was hanging me out of an upstairs window by my ankles when my Grand Auntie Enid offered him a meringue, and he accidentally let go, but I bounced all the way down the garden and into the road. This dude, Neville's great uncle Algie is Homelander from The Boys.
He's like hanging a kid out. You want a cookie? Yeah, that'd be great.
Just drops him off out the window, and luckily he bounces.
See, and this is also why I say that there weren't other wizards helping Harry earlier, and it was his innate magical stuff. Because like whenever he was upset or worried or scared, things would happen, which is what we just had, which is what Neville just described.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I say that it wasn't other people helping Harry out.
It's funny with the sorting hat ceremony. Harry at first was concerned that he was going to be sorted last.
Yeah,
but it was obviously going in alphabetical order by name.
Well, he was worried he wouldn't be picked at all, and they would be kicked out. And then I love how the Sorting Hat had a song, and that's something we don't get in the movie is the Sorting Hat singing. Like it's just kind of there. It doesn't do anything until it starts putting it on people's heads, and like we can't really go into it, but the songs are really cool, and we find out after the sorting ceremony that the song changes every year. So I thought that was kind of cool, but I did think it was funny that Harry was like started thinking back to being in school and being picked last because nobody wanted to like pick him for fear of making his cousin mad, so he was scared he was scared the hat was going to get put on his head. He was going to get kicked out of Hogwarts first day.
Right.
But I just really like, but again, really lets you know how bad he does not want to go back.
Right.
So it's just like kind of your heart kind of goes out to the kid.
Yeah. Page 30. So there wasn't much I didn't think anything really stood out with like the sorting ceremony just because it's like, all right, there's no real rhyme or reason why. I mean, we get a sense that Harry was able to influence which house he went to.
Yeah, and it was really
maybe.
It was really an interesting conversation though, because like he was so anti-Slytherin because everybody kept saying, every witch or wizard that went bad was in Slytherin. And so he's just like sitting there thinking not Slytherin. And the Sorting Hat was like, oh, well, and it was almost like the Sorting Hat was trying to be like, are you sure? Because it's all up here. You could be awesome. Slytherin could help you be awesome. And like you can really get the feeling that Harry is tired of kind of being like not or just kind of being Harry, like he's ready to do something different. So it's almost like the Sorting Hat's like, you sure? If you want to be Slytherin, I can put you in Slytherin. It'd be really cool for you. And he's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, cool, Gryffindor it is. But I did think it was interesting in the book, they don't make a big a deal about Harry getting sorted as they do in the movie. Because in the movie, whenever they bring Harry Potter, like Dumbledore sits up, like all like everybody in the room's like, oh, what are we gonna get? Where's he going? And in the book, it just kind of happens, like they're just kind of rolling through it.
I think the kids were. I think
Well, the kids
like,
were super excited.
Fred and
but
George were like, "We got Potter."
yeah, but that's I mean, we figured out pretty quick that Fred and George really like Harry Potter.
So does Ginny.
It was pretty clear that Ginny had a thing for Harry.
I don't know if they mentioned that in book 1, but anyway, I think I think it was at the
they
end.
well no they mentioned it at the very beginning too, because
Oh yeah,
she sees him at King's Crossing and kind of like
and she kind of hides away.
yeah starts
Like,
blushing and hides. So we do
don't
kind
let
of
him
get
look at
that.
me.
Yeah.
Page 130. I thought this was really neat and missing from the movies was Harry's dream about Professor Quirrell's turban.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a nice detail. So he had a strange dream. He was wearing Professor Quirrell's turban, which kept talking to him, telling him he must transfer to Slytherin at once because it was his destiny.
Yep.
Harry told the turban he didn't want to be in Slytherin. It got heavier and heavier. He tried to pull it off, but it tightened painfully. And there was Malfoy laughing at him as he struggled with it. And Malfoy turned into the hook-nosed teacher Snape, whose laugh became high and cold. And there was a burst of green light, and Harry woke, sweating and shaking.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, obviously, Voldemort. Yeah, that's the villain in the story. Can't forget
with the green light.
Yeah. Obviously, he's affecting Harry Potter's mind a little bit with his magic.
But is he though?
I think this is foreshadowing to the end of this book.
I think it's a little foreshadowing, but I think it's really just at this point. I don't think it's influence. I think it's just an 11-year-old having a nightmare at this point.
I think there's more to it than that, just because of it being Professor Quirrell's turban.
Yeah, but at this point, we don't really know what's up with Professor Quirrell's turban, unless we're just
Right. We don't, but I mean, in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah,
agree to disagree.
You're gonna stand on that hill.
I'm gonna stand on that hill. I think it's just an 11-year-old having a nightmare, and the only reason why I say that is because it doesn't happen again. So that's why I go with that.
I mean, there's other times when he's by, obviously, when he's by Professor Quirrell, that something happens, like with this scar and stuff. So
I'm talking specifically about the dream. Like he doesn't have like any more specific dreams, kind of like that.
Well, I agree that he doesn't have any more dreams, but the effects of being around Quirrell are there, whether it's he's awake or he was in a dream. So, that's all I have for the Sorting Hat. Chapter 8 is the Potions Master.
We meet Snape.
And it is kind of odd for an adult or a teacher to have such a predisposition to a kid and put it on display.
Yeah, just put it out there for everybody to see.
Like,
he's like, I don't like you. I want everybody to know I don't like you,
including the headmaster of the school that employs me.
Yeah, don't care.
I do not like this kid, and I am going to be unjust and unfair to him in my class if you put him in my class
at all costs.
Well, we obviously have to replace you, right?
Apparently not. They just let it happen. It's like, my God, this kid can't catch a break.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't make nothing really stood out here except for just meeting Snape. To
me, the only thing that really stood out was that he immediately, like in the book or in the movie rather, he comes in and like Harry's taking notes about all the stuff Snape is saying. In the book, Snape comes in, sees Harry Potter, and like immediately goes in
Asks him
on
all
him,
these
starts
questions.
firing off questions, and he's like, I don't know.
He's like, all right, points from Gryffindor.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Like, what? Hold on. He's like, you didn't read your books before you came here?
Well, and he did say
Oh.
5 points for your cheat, because he was like, well, ask Hermione, she knows.
Yeah, she obviously wants to
Right.
answer. Like 5 points from Gryffindor for your cheekiness.
Yeah. And I do think that, or another thing that I think is pretty interesting, but the big difference between the book and the movie is, in the movie, it really kind of felt like Hermione and Ron and Harry got to be buddies pretty quick because of the pace of the movie. Like the next thing you know, they're friends. But in the book, like you really get the sense of they're halfway through the first semester before they become friends.
Right.
And I thought that was a pretty big difference.
She gets upset with them and is like, well, what are you doing that?
Yeah.
I do like the end of the last paragraph in this chapter, because it's like, next time on Dragon Ball Z, will Goku make it in time? She writes all these questions here. Is like, had Hagrid collected that package just in time? Where was it now? And did Hagrid know something about Snape that he didn't want to tell Harry?
Oh, because of the newspaper.
Yeah. But just like all those questions is like, tune in for the next chapter. You might find out. Like,
Yeah.
good thing the book's in my hand. I'm
Right.
reading.
Just turn the page.
The next page is chapter 9, The Midnight Duel.
I wish this would have happened in the movie. I wish it would have happened this way in the movie.
Well, I can't remember the differences in here.
So right here, Harry and Malfoy are going at it, and he's like, "Oh, well, why don't we settle this with a duel? Surely you know what a duel is." And Ron pipes up. He's like, "Yeah, I'll be there with Harry. Who's your second?" And then
They
Hermione
did it on the table in the Great Hall, didn't they?
Well, no, that's something completely different. So here, like Malfoy, they get ready to go sneak out. Hermione catches up or gets caught with them, and like gets drug out because she thinks they're going to get expelled. And they go up to wherever the duel's going to be, and they run into Filch. They run into Filch. And as they're running away, they run into this giant 3-headed dog. Whereas in the book or in the movie, instead of this midnight duel, they're like they're either going back to the dormitory or they're going somewhere, and the stairway moves and it puts them in the area they're not supposed to be. Gotcha, as opposed to there being this midnight. There's no, this little midnight duel doesn't happen in the movie at all. And I think it would have been a neat thing to put in the movie instead of just having a staircase move, and that's how they ended up where they weren't supposed to be.
Yeah, I did like how how the story builds in being locked out of someplace.
Yeah.
By the person in the portrait leaving their portrait for midnight escapades.
Yeah, just leaves.
The lock is gone. The lock is gone.
Literally gone.
Like, you cannot get in because it's just not there anymore.
Yeah, because Neville was locked out because the lady was gone.
Poor guy. And that them sneaking around actually reminds me, my sister, my oldest sister, she went to her last 2 years of high school were at Louisiana School for Math, Science, and Arts up at
LSMSA.
On Northwestern campus. And they had a lot of like family weekends that we would go to. And so whenever we went, my cousin also was at LSMSA. So my sister and my cousin were there, and then on the family weekends, me and my cousin would go up and visit our sisters,
Mm-hmm.
and we would stay in the men's the male dorms with their friends, but you know, college and high school students that live in a dorm like that, a lot of times on the weekends they're staying up late doing all sorts of stuff, right? So we were running around doing different things, going meeting people we didn't know, being in other people's rooms, um, and then this is where I learned how to penny lock a door.
Mm.
Do you know what a penny locking is?
Yeah.
So if listeners don't know, you you progressively make a stack of pennies bigger and bigger, and you start at the top of the door and you push the top of the door a little bit and you stick the penny in, and then you drag it down as far and close to the doorknob as you can, and it puts a hell of a lot of pressure on the latch on the doorknob so that the person inside
Can't
is
turn
now
it.
locked
Mm-hmm.
inside because there's too much pressure pushing on the latch that it can't turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the middle of the night, we we got conscripted by some of the other guys in the dorm to mess with some of their friends or somebody, and we penny lock and then bang on the door, and then there.
Every kid I know that went to LSMSA kept 2 rule books. One that they had to keep on them that way because the people would ask them, "Hey, where's your rule book?" and they'd have to show them during inspections and stuff. And another one where they would highlight all the rules they had broken and gotten away with. So interesting story. Now the dorms that you're talking about are no longer there.
Oh man.
Those dorms have been torn down and they are in the process of building a new classroom building.
Okay, yeah, I can't remember the name of the boys' dorm, but I think the girls' dorm was the
No,
Cato dorms.
Caddo dorm was the college dorm.
Was it?
Mm-hmm. I went to Northwestern.
I swore that was the LSMSA dorm.
Maybe a wing of it was, but Caddo was definitely a college dorm. I had friends that stayed
Because
there.
that is the only name I remember.
So I mean, Caddo was right next to LSMSA because it was so on top of the hill it was Sabine. Down the hill a little bit was LSMSA dorms, and then the next dorm up was the Caddo dorm.
Okay.
And then it was Sabine, then the cafeteria, and then Rapides. Sabine, the cafeteria, and Rapides, and now LSMSA are all gone. They are no longer standing.
Gotcha. Yeah, my sister is 6 years older than me, so she's 44.
Okay.
Almost around your age.
I was say almost my age then.
Yeah. Almost your age or
Oh,
older than
she's
you?
older than me. Never mind.
Yeah.
She,
You're almost her age.
yeah, I knew it. Up here it made sense. Here it didn't.
All right. And chapter 10, Halloween. In this chapter, we get Harry learns the basics of Quidditch. And then this is where Harry, Ron, and Hermione all become friends because Harry and Ron rescue Hermione from the troll.
So I do like the interaction of Harry learning Quidditch and learning how to fly and being because that's really the first time that we get a sense that he's like just naturally good at a thing. Like he just instinctively knew what to do with the broom as opposed to having to be told what to do. Like once he got on it, he was just instantly amazing at it. I did think and then the whole interaction between McGonagall seeing him and like I thought they did a much better job of her being like super upset and him thinking he's getting kicked out the whole time in the book. Because she was like,
Mhm.
never in all my years have I ever seen a student do this. Professor Quirrell, I need wood now. And it's just like, oh my God, they're gonna beat this kid.
Right.
Whereas in the book or in the movie, right? I keep saying that in the movie, she really didn't make it seem like it was that big of a deal
Hmm.
because she really didn't say much to him before going to find Wood and being like, "Hey, Wood, I found you a seeker." Like I really thought there was a much better done in the book of like the build up to holy crap, he's actually going to get kicked out, and oh no, now you're going to be the youngest player or the youngest seeker on a house team in 100 years, and oh by the way, your dad was a seeker for Quidditch too. So
Yeah,
so now
that was a
Halloween's now that
that
I've
was a
gone on a
great
tangent,
place. That was a great placement of the thumbs up.
it really was.
Thanks, Zoom.
Gotta love it. So now Halloween and the trolls.
Yep. So like, they're like, oh, there's there's a troll in the dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, everybody follow the teachers. We gotta get y'all to safety. And then they're like, oh wait, that's where
That's
um
Hermione
that's
doesn't
where Hermione
know.
went.
Well, and something else that's to me a giant difference was in the movie. Dumbledore basically just yells silence, and everybody's like, "Oh snap, yes sir." But in the book, it's like he's having to shoot fireworks to get everybody's attention, and because nobody's paying attention.
Yeah. You
And
should
then
never shoot fireworks indoors, by the way.
no, you should not. It's dangerous, unless they're magical fireworks, apparently, or your ceiling is 200 feet tall.
Yeah.
But I did think it was interesting that in the book, Harry and Ron are like, "Sweet, the troll went in the bathroom. There's a lock. Let's lock it in the bathroom." And they're like, "Haha, we trapped the troll." Wait, that's the girl's bathroom that Hermione's in. Crap.
All right. All right,
Now what?
Hermione, we're coming in.
So yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting difference there.
I will say in this chapter, had I had to, there were times in this book where I had to reread what Rowling wrote because I
Mhm.
was like, I missed something. Like
Yeah.
the pace at which she writes and doesn't like. There's a lot of times where characters are having a conversation
Hmm.
and then the conversation ends and she does not note that any of the characters walk off
Yeah. It just kind of
and
like things
they,
they just kind of disappear.
they disappear and now the other I'm like, well, so a couple times it's happened where I'm like, wait, they were just talking to this person, now they're talking about this person to these other
Yeah.
people.
Like, do they
All
not care they're still standing there?
right. Right. And
And
so
it's also, I think at that point, it's also important to note that this was her first book that she ever wrote.
yeah, let's see. um all right, so the fighting, they're fighting the trolls.
Mm-hmm.
And paragraph says, Harry then did something that was both very brave and very stupid. He took a great running jump and managed to fasten his arms around the troll's neck from behind. The troll couldn't feel Harry hanging there, but even a troll will notice if you stick a long bit of wood up its nose. And Harry's wand had still been in his hand when he jumped. It had gone straight up one of the troll's nostrils. So before I hadn't gotten to the end of the paragraph yet, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, all right, he jumped and he's hanging from his neck, and but the troll will notice if you stick a long bit of wood up. So I was like, when did that happen? Like, where did she say this happened?
Well, and at what point did it say that he drew that anybody had their wands out?
Yeah, that too, or that his
Mhm.
fist was up in the air. He
Yeah.
just jumped and hung. And I was like, this is confusing. And there are multiple times with
Mhm.
her book that I had to go, all right, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because there are some authors that it's like it states exactly what's going on, and then oh, person walks off screen.
Mhm.
Now these people go to this room and they're talking to these
Right.
people. Like, okay, I understand what's going on. So
Makes it a
uh
lot easier to follow.
yeah, and so then the end, get berated by the teachers for being there.
And we
Uh,
see Snape has a leg injury.
oh yeah. Let's see.
And
They do
now
get 10 points for Gryffindor though,
they do.
for
And then they,
defeating Troll. That's some
but they,
good experience
but then they lost 5 for Hermione.
because she ran off.
No, because she told them that she could, or she thought she could take on the troll by herself. So McGonagall took 5 points from her, and then gave Harry and Ron 5 points each. So Ron was like, "Man, we only got 5 points because we lost 5 from Hermione."
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep. All right. So
And now those 3 are best friends.
yeah, that's when they become friends.
That's-
It's
Again, once you survive a troll attack together, I guess that kind of cements you in friendship.
it even says it right here in the book, so we know for sure. But from that moment on, Hermione Granger became their friend.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them.
And we need to pause there for just a second. So Harry needs to play basketball. If he took a running jump and was able to get his arms around a 12-foot tall troll's neck,
Mm-hmm.
he could dunk a basketball no problem. At 11, kid's a beast.
Speaking of basketball, you know, I swear my entire life there's been a ghost of an NBA MVP hanging out in my by my bathroom trash cans, because every time I try to throw something in those things, it ends up on the floor. Every time.
Just rejecting you every time.
It could be a wadded up piece of toilet paper and it just flies right off. It could be
maybe you're just that bad.
it could be Q-tips that I throw in and it just hits something and bounces right out. Like, I can't be the only one that this happens to. I know I'm not the only one. Well, I mean, it happens in my house, and
I've never been to your house to throw something away, so I couldn't tell you.
there's things that end up on the floor near the bathroom trash cans that I know I didn't try to throw in there. So it's not just me, but it is in my
The ghost of
house.
Matumbo's at your house going, no, 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 not today.
Yeah, no, no, no.
Even though Matumbo's still alive, so it wouldn't be his ghost.
Yeah, but that guy's whoever that is NBA MVP multi-time
Defensive player of the year right there.
Yeah. All right, so we're in the last third of the book now.
Yep.
Chapter 11, Quidditch. Literally said Harry has his first match and the kids are suspicious of Snape. Essentially what happens.
Yeah, we're there. We've got that part figured out. But we do get a sense that as far as Quidditch goes, the Gryffindor team has been, and I don't know how they would do this because it's not like we're not talking about like a 5A school where there's thousands of people. Like all these kids know each other. But how are they able to keep Harry's involvement on the Quidditch team a secret? He's out there practicing with them. I couldn't wrap my head around that at all. I mean, this school's got like 300 kids in it max. I mean, maybe let's just call it 400 kids in each house. What are we talking about here? Like, there's no way that they were able to keep Harry Potter being the youngest Quidditch player ever, or the youngest Quidditch player in a century, a secret.
No, absolutely not.
But I also did like how after he gets on the team and he got his broom, Malfoy like tries to get him in trouble, like, Harry Potter's got a broom, professor. And the professor was like, oh yeah, I heard about that. That's really cool, man. Good job. And
Yeah,
Malfoy's
Dumbledore
like,
bought it for him. Dumbledore bought it for him.
Well, McGonagall got it for him, but still, it's just like Malfoy was like, what? Like, how? Why I don't get it. It's not fair.
We're not first years aren't supposed to have brooms.
Well, his whole thing was like, well, if Harry gets one, I should get one. He's looking down his little nose at people.
It is bizarre. During the Quidditch match when um, Hermione goes over behind Snape and she lights his shoestrings on fire.
Was it his
And like he
shoestrings or what
doesn't.
is his cape?
I thought it was his shoes.
I know. That may be one of the things I'm confusing. In the movie, it was his cape
Let's see.
because they figure out that Snape is not blinking and staring at Harry, and Harry's broom is going crazy and bucking around, and Harry's barely hanging on. And they figure it's got
It was onto the hem of his robes.
Okay, so Hermione lights the hem of his robe on fire.
And it took perhaps 30 seconds for him to realize that he was on fire.
But then it also says he jumps up and bumps into Professor Quirrell. Or startled Professor Quirrell. One or the other.
Now Hermione on her way to Snape bumped into Quirrell.
I knew he was in there somewhere.
Yeah, they couldn't have been sitting too close to each other because he was counterspelling Quirrell, and if they were sitting right next to each other, you would have known.
We find out later that he was counterspelling.
Yeah, but we find out in this book.
Yeah,
he was. So, spoiler for the book, but we're talking about the whole.
Spoiler for the last chapter, but
yeah. But we're discussing this entire book on this episode, so hopefully you finish reading the book by the time this episode finishes.
Maybe they're reading along. Maybe they're listening to our chapter reviews and they're reading the next chapter and then pausing it. You don't know. You don't know what people are doing.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that this episode is spoilers for the entire book at any point in the podcast. And sorry if you disagree. But it is our podcast, and if you don't want that, then feel free to make your own podcast. Tell us about it, and we'll go listen.
Yeah, absolutely. So Harry wins his first Quidditch match
by nearly swallowing the snitch.
Yeah, and then the other team complains that shouldn't count, and they're like, "Yeah, there's really no rule about how you catch it. You just got to catch it."
Yeah. What's going on with my phone?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not there. So there's a big celebration because Harry has won the Quidditch match, and it's like basically the first time since Charlie Weasley was on the team that the Gryffindors are like, this is our year.
Spoiler alert, it was not their year.
It was not their year.
For
just like the Cowboys.
It was not their year for the Quidditch Cup.
This is true.
It was for the House Cup, though. Which one's more important?
Depends on what your thing is. If you're a jock, the Quidditch Cup is probably more important.
Yeah. Shall we move on to chapter 12? The Mirror Sid. So this is the first time I believe that Harry has ever experienced a positive family like experience.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for a holiday. So it's his first time with the Weasley brothers, or it's just for the first time. And he's with the Weasley brothers in the Gryffindor common room dorms for Christmas.
Yep, he was super excited to actually stay there for Christmas, which was funny because Malfoy was making fun of people saying, "I can't believe that," or basically saying like it's how pathetic it was. There were kids who didn't want to go back and be with their families, didn't want them. And he was like, "I can't wait to sign up to stay here for Christmas." He was like, "This is going to be dope right here. This is awesome."
Yeah, I remember one of the first times I stayed. Now I went my first semester. The only semester I was away from home for college was my first semester. And I went to UL in Lafayette, about an hour away, and stayed in the dorm over there. And I remember like the first time where I didn't go home for a weekend. And I was like, man, this is like a ghost town almost. You only had the out-of-staters.
Yeah.
Pretty much only had the out-of-staters stay around on the weekend. And anybody within the state pretty much drove home because it's at most a 3.5 hour drive from there to anywhere
Mm.
in Louisiana.
Pretty much. I mean, you got what, I-10 right there.
And
I-49 is not far away.
I-49. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I was one of those weirdos that I stayed almost every weekend because I was in the band, and if there was a football game, I had to play anyway, so we stayed a lot.
and so Harry he was surprised to get all these presents from
Mhm.
Ron and the Weasleys. Um, and am I misremembering that he did actually get something sent from his aunt and uncle?
You got a 50-cent piece.
Oh yeah, okay. I couldn't remember what it was, but I was like, I swear it was
Yep.
something, and it was very very
They
lackluster.
they taped a 50-cent piece to the note they sent to him, and he gave it to Ron because Ron was like, "What is this? This is cool. What? I've never seen this before."
It's Muggle money.
Yeah. So he gave it to Ron. And
uh,
I love how like Ron was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, my mom made you a sweater," and he
he's like,
thought like,
this is
and he
cool.
was like, "This is the best day ever."
And then Fred and George come in and is like, hey, Harry got one too.
Yeah,
And they're like, Ron, put yours on. He's like, what?
I
And
don't
like Fred and
wanna.
George are like, they're sarcastically excited about the
Yeah,
sweaters.
I think
Um,
they were the only two that really kind of understood Harry though, like kind of understood his situation. And not that Miss Weasley and the rest of the Weasleys were bad, but they were always getting those two confused. And so like they probably felt a little like miscreants or a little mistreated in their little family. And so they see this kid that's kind of, been mistreated, never had anything coming up, and they're like they really want Ron or want Harry to feel accepted. And so like they really latch on to Harry. Like they basically those two kind of brought him into the Weasley family quicker than Ron did. It's just that Ron was his age,
yeah.
in my
And
opinion.
the sweaters, Fred and George's had an F and a G, and Harry's had
Yeah.
an H, and Percy's had a P as well, but Ron's
Yep.
didn't have anything, right?
Yeah, it was, I think so. I don't remember. I know it
Because
was
he made a
maroon.
comment. Is like somebody made a comment. It was like somebody doesn't forget the first letter of their name.
Right. And the only thing Ron said was it's maroon. She knows I hate maroon.
And then the rest of the chapter. So the most important gift he gets, and it doesn't have a name
Mhm.
attached to it, is the invisibility cloak from his
Yep.
father.
Well,
His father didn't give it
spoiler,
to him.
we know later it's his dad's. We don't know that no, it does say your father left this in your possession. My bad. Carry on as you were.
Yeah,
I corrected myself and said you're right. Leave me alone.
making me second guess
You don't have to
myself.
second guess yourself. The note said your father left this in my possession. It's time you had it.
Yeah, your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you.
Yeah.
Use it well. A
I
very Merry Christmas to
corrected.
you. Also,
Thank you.
in the book they say Merry Christmas. In the movies they say Happy Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't know why they changed that, but
I don't know.
whatever. They didn't want to be merry. So yeah, he decides to use the cloak
Mhm.
and sneaks out and actually finds the mirror of Erised.
Well, so he does. They're trying to figure out the whole thing about Nicholas Flamel. So now we're getting deeper into what is the dog guarding? Why is the dog there? What's happening? What is Snape after? They figure out it has something to do with Nicholas Flamel. And so Hermione, before she leaves for vacation for the holidays, she's like, y'all need to go to the restricted section
Of the library. Yeah.
of the library and figure out where can we find Nicholas Flamel. And so Harry uses the invisibility cloak to go to the library, does not find out anything about Nicholas Flamel. He runs away before he gets caught by the librarian. And now he catches up with Snape and Quirrell.
And it was Peeves that no, was it Peeves that gave them away in the library?
I
Or
think
was it a
so.
book that
And
screamed?
why wasn't Peeves in the movies?
I don't know.
Peeves is such a like he pops up so many times in the book. And throughout the series, he pops up playing honestly kind of important roles.
Right.
But we don't get him. We don't get him. We don't get the Red Baron. Like the ghosts play very little of a role in the movies, but they're actually kind of important characters in the books.
Yes, they
And I
are.
really think that we kind of got robbed on not getting more of the ghost in the movies.
Yeah. And we'll talk when we talk about the second book. Remind me of another thing
I will do my best.
with ghosts. So yeah, he goes out and he leaves the library. He's being chased by Filch,
Mm-hmm.
and that Mrs. Norris, the cat, kind of knows that Harry's there but can't see him too, and ends up finding the mirror of Erised, and he's looking at it and he's like, "Oh, this is showing me my whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this is cool. I gotta show people, like I gotta show Ron, like, Ron, look, you can see my family."
Did you get the sense looking at so they in the book they have like what the writing around the mirror says? Does that feel like an anagram to you? Like if you were to take some time to kind of unscramble that, like it would say something.
So the description: Erised stra eru oit ube kafru oit on wosi.
Like it kind of feels like it kind of feels like an anagram. Like if you were to sit there and play at it for a little bit, it would say a completely different sentence. Like this shows you what you want to see or something like that.
Maybe.
I thought so whenever I looked at it. Like it feels like an anagram.
I mean, I see YouTube in here.
Do you see YouTube?
I do.
Right on.
It's on page 207 if you wanted to.
Well, my book is different than yours, so our page numbers won't match.
It's on page 207.
I mean, I'm sure. I'm gonna turn to page 207 in mine just to see if it's the same one. I'm gonna laugh because that'll be too funny.
That will be pretty funny.
No, so that is not what my page 207 says.
What does your page 207 say?
At the very bottom, it has the actual inscription. So they're the same.
It is the last line on
The
your page?
last line is that exact thing. So our page numbers do match. Look at you. That's
I'm a
two.
wizard.
That's 2 times today that I've had to admit you're right. It's a record for this podcast.
Yeah, but hey, I had to admit that you're right on a couple things that I didn't keep track of, though.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't keep track of when you're right, only when I'm right, and apparently you keep track of when I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, it's more fun
So
that way.
you're more concerned about it than I am, right?
Sure.
I like this look right here. This is like a sexy, nerdy look right here.
I mean, you know who I feel like I look like right now?
Mike Franklin?
No.
Your dad, Mr. Franklin?
Jesus Christ, never.
Your mother?
Oh, no, she doesn't have a beard like mine. My beard's way better. No,
You should put your
McDonald.
beard on your mother.
Oh my gosh, what's his first name? He used to be a Highland Games dude, and he does like all of the my neighbor's a power lifter, my neighbor's a CrossFitter.
Dan McKim?
Dan McKim. I feel like I look like Dan McKim right now.
I just watched his your neighbors are doing 75 hard.
Yeah, well, I watched the first part of that. It was funny. I like Dan McKim. He's funny.
Yeah, he does a lot of funny stuff. He gave me a fudge round at Summer Strong one time.
I would have split it with it and ate it with him. Been like here.
Dude, we were standing around watching people bench. Like we watched Jared Myatt bench nearly bench 500 pounds. Not bench nearly 500 pounds. He successfully benched nearly 500 pounds, but he nearly benched 500 pounds.
Awesome.
And then afterwards, Dan McKim opened up a bunch of boxes of
Little Debbie's.
Little Debbie snacks and just started handing them out.
I love that he is their only sponsored athlete in history, and the internet bullied them into sponsoring him.
Right?
That's what's so great. Like it had like he did it. He made the post as a joke.
Yeah, and he got a cease and desist letter.
And then so many of us were like, "No, y'all need to sponsor him." That they finally did. It's like being a bully on the internet worked out for good one time.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Chapter 13, Nicholas Flamel. I feel like we were missing something though at the end of that chapter when he returned to
When he goes back with Ron.
Yes.
And how Ron sees basically everything that he's not, like he's head boy and Quidditch captain and all the awesome, amazing things. And he's like, does it show the future? And Harry's like, how can it show the future if my family's dead?
Yes, and Harry finds out that what Ron shows him because of Dumbledore.
Yeah, Dumbledore ask him almost ask him a riddle, or explains the mirror to him in a riddle, and Ron and Harry kind of figures it out. He's like, oh, so if if the happiest person on the planet would only see himself, he's like, it would only show you as you are or what you want. He's like, basically.
And it's funny, it's like he said he said, how did you know? He says, I don't need a cloak to become invisible, said Dumbledore gently. Yeah, and it says, now, can you think what the Mirror of Erised shows us? He said, let me explain. The happiest man on earth would be able to use the Mirror of Erised like a normal mirror. That is, he would look into it and see himself exactly as he is. Does that help? Yeah, it shows us what we want, whatever we want. So yes and no. So yeah, that was the end.
And it also kind of let us know that
asks,
Dumbledore knows that Harry Potter has a cloak of invisibility.
Yes. And he's like, yeah, I don't need a cloak to become invisible.
Yeah. Kind of threw that out there.
Says. But also, Harry also said, what do you see when you look in the mirror? He goes, I see myself holding a pair of thick woolen socks. Is that Dumbledore stupid dad humor again?
Yeah. He's like, another year is come and gone, and people will have insisted on giving me books.
Yeah. Didn't get a single pair of socks.
Yep, just got books.
Chapter 13, Nicholas Flamel. So Hermione returns and is like, what did y'all find out? He goes, we didn't find out anything.
We found nothing.
What do you mean? I told you to do this. Like, he's like, well, we had all this going on. And then he's like, here, Harry, you want, or maybe it was, no, it wasn't Harry. It was Neville. Harry gave Neville a chocolate frog, and then Neville was like, thanks. You want the trading card? I know you collect. And he goes, trading cards?
Well,
now I know.
He sees Dumbledore, and he looks on the back of it. He's like, wait a second.
Yeah, that's why I know Nicholas Flamel. And so discovers he was an alchemist. And then they go and research him and find out that he was the only known maker of the Sorcerer's Stone, which does two random things, which just turns objects into gold, and then gives you eternal life. So it makes you as rich as you want and makes you live as long as you.
Well, that's a play on the old tale about alchemy, right? I mean, it's having.
What is that?
Alchemy?
Not alchemy. What's the old tale?
The old tale about you've read the self-help book The Alchemist, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the Alchemist is that's like it's the ability, like, so that whole thing about being an alchemist and having a stone that can turn things into gold and create the elixir of life is it's a very that tale's been around for years and years. Like it's not J.K. Rowling didn't come up with it. She kind of borrowed it from somewhere else.
Okay.
So I read that and I kind of chuckled the first time because I was like, oh, that's the trope we're playing for this one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've ever read The Alchemist.
I'm
recommend
probably
it?
I'm one of the few people that I have read it and listened to the audiobook. It's got a lot of great messages in it. I just don't like the delivery of either the written or the audio. I don't like it.
I'm having
And
a hard time getting through Scarcity Brain.
I'm a little bit over halfway through. I'm probably 3/4 of the way through Scarcity Brain.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through. It's not as good as Comfort Crisis.
I haven't read Comfort Crisis. I've got a.
You should read Comfort Crisis.
It's on
Same
it's on my short list. I got to read Endurance first.
Okay. Back to Nicholas Flamel chapter.
Oh, before we do that, we kind of skipped over that apparently Ron is a wizard chest like savant, and Harry Potter got a wizard chest set for Christmas.
Oh, yeah, we did skip over that, definitely. Skipped over it so much that it wasn't even in my head. But you've read the book like 7 times now, so
This read through probably makes number 7.
yeah. So this is number 2 for me. So
There you go.
Harry has another Quidditch match against Hufflepuff. He does catch the snitch to beat them and puts Gryffindor in the lead for the House Cup. And I think it was the fastest that anybody has ever caught the snitch.
Yeah, they told him that Snape was the referee, and if they wanted to have any chance to mitigate Snape giving them unfair rulings and stuff, to catch the snitch as fast as humanly possible. And he did. He caught it like feels under a minute.
Yeah, it was under
So,
a minute. They thought we find out at the end of the book that Snape was not the referee to keep Gryffindor from winning, but he was the referee to keep Quirrell from interfering.
Yep. We find out a lot about Snape as we go on that we think all of these things that he's doing, like the whole thing about, I mean, obviously spoiler coming before the end of the book, like everything he was doing was because he figured out what Quirrell was up to and he was trying to stop him.
Yeah.
So
I'm still kind of confused in this chapter. So Harry eavesdrops on Snape and Quirrell and believes Snape is extorting Quirrell for information to get past Fluffy.
yeah.
I'm still a little bit confused as to why Snape was meeting with Quirrell and they were discussing Fluffy. They were discussing the defenses.
Right.
Like, who initiated that meeting? And obviously we know that Quirrell wanted to know how to get past Fluffy.
Yeah. So I don't think any of the. I think this was part of the protection of the end product here was that none of the professors, none of the people involved in the protection of the Sorcerer's Stone knew how to get past the other people's things.
Right.
It's almost like Dumbledore like compartmentalized. He's like, okay, you do this, and then didn't tell them what the next thing was. So like everybody had their own little piece of it, but yeah, that's kind of what I think. But as far as like why was that conversation taking place in the first place, I don't know. No idea.
All right, we got 4 more chapters to get through.
Do we have a dragon yet? Are we at a dragon yet?
That is the next chapter, chapter 14, Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback.
Yes,
and we're at 2 hours, just about 2 hours now. So this might be the longest episode.
No, we have one that's 3.
We do not have one that's 3 hours long.
I'll maybe go back and look. I almost guarantee we've got one that's 3 hours long.
2 hours, just over 2 hours is the longest, I'm pretty sure. But we can make this one longer by looking it up.
I mean, or you could start talking about the chapter while I look it up.
Okay, yeah, you look it up. Although I'm looking it up.
who's going to get there first. So we're talking about. So this is where he starts looking at
156.
Is this where we find Hagrid in the library looking at books?
Our longest episode was 1 hour 56 minutes. All right, so Norbert, the Norwegian Ridgeback, Easter holiday has passed. So the school year is passing by quickly. And I want to mention real quick
Hour 59, sir. Episode 13 in Conquest Born, hour and 59 minutes.
Okay. Chapter 12 or chapter 13 is the first sense that I got of there actually being real danger, like imminent danger.
Okay.
And interesting things happening other than just like world building and hey, these kids are running around. So they're like actually building towards something. So chapter 14, the Easter holiday is passed. The gang discovers that all of the professors, Sprout, Flitwick, McGonagall, Quirrell, Dumbledore, and Snape all put, and Hagrid, put a defense on protecting the Sorcerer's Stone. It's funny. I started writing everybody's names down at some point later on, trying to figure out who was associated with each one. And then Dumbledore conveniently told us who was responsible for each defense.
Yeah. He kind of let everybody in at the very end there.
Yeah. All right. So Hagrid hatches a dragon. They hear a noise outside the window, realize Malfoy saw the dragon, and like, oh crap, Malfoy's going to run and tell. Hagrid's going to get kicked out. So they send an owl to Charlie to have him come get the dragon before Malfoy rats them out. And then, but Charlie can't come, so he sends some people, and they have to go to the tallest tower.
But there was a big delay, and like
there was
having time to grow, and it's like why? Like in the movie, Malfoy goes
a couple
and rats him out
days
instantly. Was it?
Yes,
It felt like longer
days.
than a couple of days. It felt like a couple of weeks.
I think it was a couple of days, but they mentioned that the dragon grew fast. Like this dragon grows fast. I remember reading that much.
But it's like because in the movie, Malfoy goes to rat him out like instantly, and in the book, there's a few days that go by, and it's just like, wow. And I don't know if
the
that
dragon
was to build suspense or what.
The dragon bit Hagrid as well, and he started like, he started like hallucinating.
Was his finger? Yeah, his finger was like turning green and stuff, and
they're like, oh wait, we can't exactly go to the nurse,
right?
But they snuck the dragon out using the invisibility cloak, going up to the tower, and then 4 of Charlie's buddies come and take him away.
Yep.
And then they go down and like, sweet, that was close,
busted.
And then they hear a voice like, what are y'all doing out here? And they're like, oh crap, we left the cloak up top.
Yep.
Now they're really scared. Anything else with that chapter? I don't know. Sorry. I'm trying to figure out the significance of them just having this plot line of the dragon, other than them having to go talk to Hagrid.
Yeah, I really couldn't make sense. Like in the movie, they almost kind of brush over it. They're like, Hagrid got a dragon. Well, and it does come back later when they're like, well, Hagrid's been wanting this dragon forever. Right. How did he even get it?
Gotcha. That's right. That's right.
So that was, but it just seemed like they drug it out in the book. Like in the movie, they hit it, the dragon's gone, and it comes back later. This one, it felt like she just drug it out for a few pages for no reason.
Yeah. So we can move on to chapter 15, the Forbidden Forest. Now, I don't know if before. Okay, so I actually wrote here on this chapter that this is the first real danger we see for any of the kids. Like this is the first time they're actually in danger of being hurt, injured,
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. Dumbledore mentioned the Forbidden Forest at the very, very beginning, like in his speech at the beginning about the Forbidden Forest is off limits. Blah blah blah, and the Weasley brothers like, yeah, everybody knows there's dangerous stuff in the Forbidden Forest, and
Right.
so now we're going into Forbidden Forest because a unicorn's been hurt, and we're like, something's hurting and killing unicorns. What's going on out here?
Yeah, what I don't remember if they mentioned earlier was Fang, like who Fang is.
Well, we hear Fang because the very first time that they go to Hagrid's hut and they knock on the door, Fang like meets them at the door.
Okay.
So
I couldn't
have met
recall,
Fang.
and I was just like, as I was reading, I was like, who's Fang? Like,
Yeah.
and at first I thought it was the spider.
Mm,
That's Aragog,
which is in a
isn't
later
it?
book.
Yeah. Um, so I was like, who's Fang? And sending him off with the children and sending Neville off with Malfoy.
Yeah.
It's like that's strange. And then you make Hermione and Harry go with stay with Hagrid.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the dog, Malfoy, and Neville all going off together.
Yep.
And then you got the three awesome people together. What? And of course, we know how that ended up, and then he swaps Neville out with
Mm-hmm.
Harry. Um,
And in the book it's switched. Like in the book, Harry and Malfoy go off together with Fang. So they don't do the whole
they don't do the whole
switcheroo.
switcheroo.
Yeah.
Um, I did find this interesting that she kept describing slithering noises
Mm-hmm.
in the forest. Um, but of course, I can't say anything
Yeah, and it's
without spoiling anything from
well,
later.
and I took that to mean like a cape sliding across the leaves. Because that flowing fabric can kind of have a slithering noise, if you will.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that. So they meet. Uh, they see a cloaked figure
Mm-hmm.
with blood dripping down, and they meet Bane.
Well, we meet Bane before that.
Okay, yeah.
We meet Bane before that, and then they meet up with the cloaked figure. And as the cloaked figure is coming to attack them, then we meet Fireeze. I never know how to say his name. Firenze.
That's
Yeah.
that's what I said. Firenze.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like Fire in Z.
Yeah. So Firenze then rescues Harry Potter and Malfoy and drags them out of the forest. And actually, does
And
he even grab Malfoy, or does it just Harry that gets on his back?
I think it's just Harry.
Yeah, it's like he's like, no, Malfoy's fine.
Yeah.
Well, Malfoy ran off. They saw the figure. Malfoy runs away, and then Firenze rescues Harry Potter.
Yes. And then they go. They go back to the common room to find out
Then Bane yells at Firenze about letting Harry Potter ride on his back.
Yeah, it's like, what are you? You
A
have no
mule?
decency.
Yeah.
You're not a horse. When they get back, they discover that
Is now the time that
Quidditch
Dumbledore's
match
gone?
lost.
Oh yeah, no. Did they lose the Quidditch? Oh, they didn't lose the Quidditch. There wasn't a Quidditch match, was there?
I think so. Oh wait, no, hold on.
That's later.
Yeah, that was later. Ron was having a fever fit where he was yelling about Quidditch fouls.
Yeah.
Or yeah, some type of dream. But then he's like, "All right, now I know what Snape wants. He wants the stone for Voldemort." Do. And then When he pulled back his bed sheets, he found his invisibility cloak folded neatly underneath them with a note pinned to it, said just in case.
Yep.
Who gave that to him?
I wonder.
We may never know. 2 more chapters.
We're almost
All
there.
right. Chapter 16, through the trap door. They fall down. Done. Chapter 17. No, just kidding.
Right. Through the trap door, they fall down. They're kicked out of Hogwarts. The end.
Yep. Done. Book 2 through 7 are done.
It's all about Harry Potter trying to readjust to public high school.
Yes. So like I said before, here I started to take notes and try to assign which professor had which defense, and then realized the book did explain that.
Yeah.
So I stopped. I also tried to work out the logic puzzle with the potions, and I actually wanted to discuss that on this, but I don't think we have time. But I swore I figured it out, but then when they explained it, I was like, why was it that?
Yeah, it didn't make sense. Like I actually wrote it like at one point. I remember writing it out to try to figure it out, and it still didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not
I think we
sure
can call
she
that
fully fleshed it out.
I think we can call that plot armor for Hermione.
Yeah. I don't think what's her name. Oh yeah, here it goes. So the danger lies before you while safety lies behind. 2 of us will help you whichever you would find. So one among us 7 will let you move ahead. Another will transport the drinker back instead. So one will allow you to go forward. The other will allow you to go back. 2 among our number hold only nettle wine. 3 of us are killers waiting hidden in line. Choose unless you wish to stay here forevermore. To help you in your choice, we give you these 4 clues. First, however slyly the poison tries to hide, you will always find some on nettle wine's left side. So wherever the wine is,
Yeah.
the poison, there's going to be a poison on the left side.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 poisons accounted for. Boom. Second, different are those who stand at either end. But if you would move onward, neither is your friend. So we know the ones on the ends are not.
Can't do anything with them.
They're either poison or nettle wine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Third, as you see clearly, all are different size. Neither dwarf nor giant holds death in their insides. Okay.
But then we don't have the visual of where's the big and the little jars.
Right. We don't know where those are located.
Yeah, no clue.
Fourth, the second left and the second on the right are twins once you taste them, though different at first sight.
But again, we don't have the visual of what do these things look like. Like if they could have even included a picture in the book of what the shape of the bottles were,
I think that's
we probably could have fleshed it out. But without
Yeah.
having that description of like what order are the bottles in, there's no way. So Hermione does get the edge because she's looking at them. But I still think it's plot armor for her.
Yeah, so I thought that the second from the left and the second on the right, I thought those were both nettle wines, and so the ones to the left were of that, the one all the way on the left, and the third from the right were both poison. So that took care of 4 of the 7, right? And then the one on the right couldn't help you. So it was another no, it wasn't another nettle wine. It was a poison.
Yeah.
But there's only, how many poisons are there?
2. Or is it 3? I think it's 3. 2 nettle wines, 3 poisons.
3 of us
When
are
you go
killers,
forward,
2 are
when you go
nettle
back.
wine. Yeah. So you got the 2 nettle wines. But the one on the right hand isn't going to help you, so it's got to be poison. So the 2 in the middle had to be the ones that help.
I guess. But again,
Like,
but again, without the, because there's a description of the two different bottles in there, but we don't see where the bottles are.
right.
So you could be right, but without seeing exactly what bottles are.
And I wasn't right because she said, um, she pointed at a rounded bottle at the right end of the line. Which one will help you back through the purple flames? The one on the right end of the line. Okay.
I don't know. So,
So
anyway,
the one on the right made you go back, but
So that-
it said
So Ron worked out the wizard chest, got him through the wizard chest. Harry used his Quidditch skills to catch the key. Hermione figured that one out. And now we're going through. She's going back to help Ron. He's going forward to face Quirrell, or he thinks Snape. What?
all right, this is where I messed up. It said if you would move onward, neither is your friend. So the one on the right is the one that makes you go backwards.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it leaves one of the two in the middle is the poison, and the other is the. Yeah. Okay.
There you go. Good job.
Yes. So Hagrid, Hagrid gave them the information
About how to get past Fluffy
about how to get past Fluffy.
by accident, but Hagrid's like that lovable idiot that just shares too much information without meaning to. Like, he doesn't mean anything bad by it.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. And so now, chapter 17, last chapter,
We
the man
think we're facing Snape, but we're not.
Yeah. It's Quirrell.
It's Quirrell.
And Voldemort. So Harry, in this one, Quirrell's like, look into the mirror and tell me where it is. Tell me what you see. And so I actually forgot what Harry actually told him he saw.
He basically told him what Ron said. He said, I'm head boy. We've won the House Cup. He basically repeats back what Ron said.
Gotcha. But he actually looks in the mirror, and while thinking that he wants the Sorcerer's Stone, and then it appears in his pocket.
That way Quirrell can't get it. That was
right, but he didn't know that was going to happen.
He didn't.
He was going to tell him a lie,
Yeah.
which he did tell him a lie, but he didn't know that the Sorcerer's Stone was going to appear in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
We do later on find out that Dumbledore and Flamel devised it.
Yeah, you had to want. Well, the mirror was an old mirror. Like, it wasn't a Flamel invention. The hiding the stone in the mirror was Dumbledore's trick. But you had, in order to retrieve the stone, you had to want to find the stone without wanting to actually use it for yourself. That was the key.
Yeah. It's interesting that Quirrell was burned because Harry Potter is infused with his mother's love.
Love conquers all.
And which is the antithesis of Voldemort's hate.
Yes.
This scene, I remember reading the book for the first time and getting through this, and then I was like, wait, that was it?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? Like, because he was just burning, and then all of a sudden Harry's waking up and Dumbledore's there.
Yeah, just burned up, went away.
What happened? What happened there? And then at the end of the book, they find out that when Harry's in there, or when he was recovering, the last Quidditch match happened and they lost.
Mm-hmm.
So that put
Slytherin in the league.
Slytherin ahead in the House Cup.
Mm-hmm.
But then Dumbledore comes in and goes, you know what? 50 points to Gryffindor for Ron's most excellent game of chess I have ever seen.
What do you mean? You watched it?
He watched it? Like, he didn't want to help these kids?
Yeah, right.
50 points to Hermione for chilling use of logic.
Mhm.
Again, you watched them do this?
I I think it was really more because it said that because he tells him in the hospital is like I passed, all right, I passed Hermione and
Yes.
Ron on the way in, and and Hermione said all he said was he's gone after him. So I think he kind of worked out because Dumbledore knew that Ron was really good at wizard chess. He knows Hermione's super logical, so he probably worked out who did what. But it's Dumbledore. He could be in
Yeah.
two places at once. I don't know.
Yeah. And then 60 points to Harry for courage for facing Voldemort. And so now they're tied. They're tied with
Does
Slytherin.
he say he doesn't say courage for facing Voldemort though? What does he say? I don't remember the exact line, but he does not mention Voldemort.
He does not say Voldemort, but he says, I had it and then it went away.
And then he gives a couple of points to the Neville for trying to fight Harry and Harry's gang for standing up to him, and that puts him over the top.
For pure nerve and outstanding courage is
Yeah.
what he awards 60 points to
Mhm.
Harry Potter for. Then everybody was going crazy because they were tied, and Harry is like, if only Dumbledore had given Harry just one more point. And then Dumbledore raised his hand and the room went quiet. There are all kinds of courage, said Dumbledore, smiling. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. I therefore award 10 points to Mr. Neville Longbottom.
Mhm.
And then,
Then claps his hands, and all the things change from Slytherin to Gryffindor.
yep. And then they had the exam results, right?
Yep. Everybody
Um,
got by. Hermione's the nerd of the group, so she got top marks and everything.
she got the best. Then they go
You know, we
to
skipped over the fact
crossing.
that during the holiday Christmas party that all the professors were getting sloshed. We just completely skipped over that all the professors were getting hammered at the Christmas party.
Yeah, I missed that.
They were because it talked about how Hagrid was deep into his cup and McGonagall was giggling a little bit more than normal and was how Dumbledore was wearing like a flower bonnet. All the professors were getting hammered.
I will say there's no mention of butterbeer in book
Not
one.
yet. We're still in book one. We're still in book one.
Book one has no butterbeer.
No, but well, we haven't gone to Hogsmeade yet.
That's right. So anyway, they're leaving, they're going away for the
Harry
summer.
gets a photo album of all of his family members that have since passed from Hagrid.
Jenny is like, there he is, Mom, look, there he
Mhm.
is. And then
And then Harry says he's going to torment his cousin with threats of magic all summer.
yeah, and Mrs. Weasley was like, you must be Harry's family. In a manner of speaking, said Uncle
Yeah.
Vernon. Hurry up, boy. We haven't got all day.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good impression?
Pretty close.
Yeah, they don't know we're not allowed to use magic at home. I'm going to have a lot of fun with Dudley this summer. Yeah. Look at that guy hiding right there.
Yep, Dumbledore.
Yep, so that's book one. I gotta say, it's a solid book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely a solid book. And now we are moving on to Chamber of Secrets, book
That's
two.
the same copy I have, I do believe. Maybe. I don't have it, but
Maybe the same cover art. Mine's old.
yeah. Here's my copy right now.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, this is actually a 2000 copy, year 2000.
yeah, mine's in the other room. So do we want to, but I can tell you what year the copy is. This book set was printed in 2023. So
Nice. Yeah, so same cover art, just different year models.
Yeah.
Different year models.
Next Friday or next week is we just moving straight on to Chamber of Secrets, or do you want to take a break? I'm cool with doing Chamber of Secrets as long as you have time to finish reading.
Yeah, I read the other book in a day, so I could probably knock this one out in a day.
Yeah, I haven't been able to read these in a day. Like I said, they're so simple that it's just like uh, so.
Yeah, I think because I've read it so many times that I kind of know what's coming, and it's really more like refreshing my memory for it. So
Gotcha. Yeah, and I've been reading books for the podcast with a very intentional reading every word and kind of understanding, taking it all in, if you will.
yeah, that's
So,
fair. But yeah, I could probably knock it out in a little bit over a day. So yeah, we'll definitely have this one ready to go for the next week.
okay. With that, I'm halfway done with this one. So, second
Right on.
book.
Well, I'll catch up to you.
Yeah, you might beat me.
And we'll see. Maybe. I got a big weekend coming up, so we'll see exactly how much time I have.
I've got a big weekend too.
Do you know?
Yeah. So, um, Friday today, when people are listening to this podcast, is my wife and I's 11th anniversary. So,
Woo woo.
yeah. Um, take her out to a nice dinner at a old. It's like they have Italian food, but it's like Cajun food as well, and an old Victorian style house
Nice.
out in Broussard, Louisiana.
Okay, right
So
on.
take her to dinner, and then Ville Platte, Louisiana. They have it's the third year they're having this Renaissance Festival,
Oh, cool.
and so we're gonna go out there Saturday. It's Beer Fete weekend.
Nice.
So they've got some beer tastings. I
Mhm.
think we're gonna do. It's still small, so there's everything's tents, nice canvas tents, um, not camping tents.
Yeah, yeah.
So but they bought last year they bought a nice piece of land to build their festival on. So in
That's
the
cool.
future they will have buildings. Um, so I like Renaissance festivals, and it's not too far from me. So want to go.
You said it's out in Ville Platte?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not too far from you.
I want to go. I want to go support them so that they can build and grow and become something really amazing.
Right on. Well, you, sir, have a phenomenal weekend and happy anniversary to you and your wife.
Thank you, and you have a great weekend too, Mike. And look
Yeah.
forward to discussing book 2 next week.
Yep, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets coming up.
And then the next week, let's week after that, let's take a conversation episode,
I like it.
and then come back to book 3. That'll book 3 is a little longer than books 1 and 2, so that one extra week will allow me a little more time to get through it. And then I think starting with book 4, I keep looking over there, but my books aren't over there.
And book 4 is where we said we are going to start splitting the episodes up.
Yeah, at least a minimum of 2.
Yeah,
maybe 3. We'll see.
The last 2 books are pretty long, so we may need to do 3 for those last 2, but we'll see.
Yes. So.
Well, all right, man. Well, I'm going to get off here, and we will chat with you later.
Yes, sir, Mike. You have a great night.
You too, bud. Later.